Dear friends, my name is Alex Sangha and I'm the founder of Share Vancouver and also the producer and cast member of this documentary film. First, I would like to acknowledge that I live, work, and play on the unceded traditional homelands of the Semiahmoo, Musqueam, Katsi, Kikwetlam, Kwantlen, Kaykwat, and Tawasin peoples. Welcome everyone to the official KPU premiere of Emergence Out of the Shadows. My first short documentary, My Name Was January, screened at KPU as a KDocs Film Festival special screening as part of Transgender Day of Remembrance. So I'm very happy to return to screen my debut feature documentary, Emergence Out of the Shadows, as part of National Coming Out Day today. The director of the film, Vinay Giridhar, who is also with us today, lives in Surrey, Newton, so I'm very happy to be screening the film locally in his community. Vinay is also making his directorial debut. I encourage you to watch the film very carefully to see if you can identify some of the beautiful locations in Surrey, Vancouver, and Whistler. I'm happy to say Emergence Out of the Shadows is 100% made in British Columbia feature film. Thank you all for being here this evening for this special event. Like I mentioned, I'm the founder of Share Vancouver, which is a social, cultural, and support nonprofit society for LGBTQ South Asians and their friends and families. We welcome everyone. We have a Jewish person currently on our board, and we've had Latino, Filipino, transgender, and South Asian people on our board as well. The documentary explores the following themes. Emergence Out of the Shadows is about the strengths and struggles of gay and lesbian South Asian people in Metro Vancouver, reflecting on their coming out journey and the reactions of their parents. Emergence is a very valuable educational tool and can help many people, especially youth, deal with their sexuality, gender identity, and coming out journey from an anti-racism and cross-cultural perspective. It will help people emotionally connect and better understand the issues, concerns, and challenges that gay and lesbian South Asian people experience and the potential fear of rejection or love and acceptance that they may receive from their parents. The film will give a voice to the taboo topic of gay and lesbian issues in the South Asian community. It is very rich to hear from the parents whose acceptance gay and lesbian children seek. For the parents, it is so difficult when teachings or loyalties are split between children and what they may have known deeply to be right or moral all their lives. Many South Asian parents with gay and lesbian children also do not know any other parents with gay and lesbian children. They are isolated with limited understanding. Emergence will help fill this gap. This documentary film will empower and save lives and create a sense of community and critical awareness for South Asian parents with gay and lesbian children. People of all backgrounds will be able to relate to this film because it deals with issues of fitting in, belonging, acceptance, love, as well as possible experiences we all go through of discrimination, oppression, racism, and rejection, and the impact this has on our life. We made this documentary for several reasons. To reduce racism, to reduce discrimination against gay and lesbian people, to create awareness around the struggles of immigrants, to educate the public about coming out, sexuality, and gender identity issues, to provide positive role models for LGBTQ plus people, especially LGBTQ plus South Asian people, by sharing their stories, to provide a platform for the parents of LGBTQ plus children to share the struggles and strengths they experience as part of their journey to accept their gay and lesbian children, to explore the impact family rejection has on the mental health of vulnerable and alienated LGBTQ plus youth. There are a number of people who have made today's event possible, and I would like to acknowledge them for their hard work and efforts. I would like to thank our moderator, Dr. Kamala Nayar, who is the faculty and chair of the Asian Studies Department at KPU. Asian Studies also co-sponsored this event. I would like to thank our event organizer, Greg Chan, who is the KDocs Film Festival Community Outreach Director. I would also like to acknowledge the President's Diversity and Equity Committee, PDEC, for sponsoring this event. Thank you all for your support and for being here today. I would like to thank the cast and crew of Emergence Out of the Shadows for their time, energy, and a commitment to this project. They all came through with flying colors. I would like to especially thank my mother, Jaspal Sangha, for starring in the film, as well as cast member Jag Nagra, who are both here on the panel. Thank you also to cast members Harv Nagra, Aftar Nagra, Rajwant Nagra, and Kayden Bagu, and of course the director of the film, Vinay Giridhar, for all his hard work and efforts. Thank you all for your contributions to the project. I am happy to announce that the documentary has been picked up for distribution by Moving Images Distribution, which is a social justice nonprofit distributor in Vancouver. They will distribute DVD and downloads of the film along with a teacher's discussion guide to high schools, colleges, universities, and the educational market across Canada. The film will also be broadcast across Canada by OutTV and made available on their streaming site, OutTV Go. This feature film had a shoestring budget of less than $125,000 and was designed to educate, create awareness, and shine a light on the strengths and struggles of LGBTQ+ people in our community. I would like to thank the nearly 30 sponsors and supporters of the film who helped make this all happen. Some of our key sponsors who helped pay for the production costs of the film include Telefilm Canada, Maxic Capital, BC Arts Council, Creative BC, Van City, City of Surrey, OutTV, Vancouver Pride Society, City of New Westminster, Province of British Columbia, and the City of Vancouver Cultural Services. Thank you to all our sponsors. It costs a lot of money to produce a film from scratch. If you would like to sponsor our film so that we can submit the film to even more film festivals around the world and share our stories, please get in touch. I would also like to encourage all KPU students who are between 16 to 30 to apply for the January Marie Lepoux Youth Leadership Award. This award recognizes youth of any sexuality or gender identity who are demonstrating involvement, commitment, and leadership in the LGBTQ+ community. The exclusive sponsor of the award is Diversity Community Resources Society. Cash prizes of $1,600, $400, and $200 are offered to the winners. For full details, check out Share Vancouver website at sharevancouver.com. Now let's get started. Thank you all for attending the KPU premiere of Emergence Out of the Shadows. I hope you enjoy the film. Thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to the Canadian premiere of Emergence Out of the Shadows. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Greg Chan, the KDocsFF Community Outreach Director and the co-organizer of this very special social justice event. My pronouns are he, him. I would like to open by giving thanks to the Kwantlen, Musqueam, Semiahmoo, Tawasin, Kakwat, and Coquitlam peoples on whose unceded ancestral lands we are privileged to study and live. Today, I join you from the traditional Musqueam territory. Along with my co-host, Kamala Nayar from the Department of Asian Studies, we are very proud to be premiering Emergence Out of the Shadows on National Coming Out Day and Thanksgiving. The documentary is part of KDocs' fall series, Stop Anti-Asian Hate, and speaks to the power of controlling your own narrative within and beyond your traditional culture. Its call to action champions family support, queer role models, and visibility. We hope you enjoyed the screening of the film and are ready to meet the people who brought it to life. So just a few guidelines before we get started. The Zoom chat is enabled, so you're welcome to open that up and join your fellow audience members there to post comments and questions, some of which will be answered by our panelists. Please ensure that your mics and cameras remain off. Our session is being recorded and will be posted on the KDocsFF YouTube channel, KDocs Talks. Next, I would like to introduce our moderator, Dr. Kamala Nayar, who specializes in South Asian religions, gender and South Asian film and society, the South Asian diaspora, and Punjabis in Canada. She is currently the chair of KPU's Department of Asian Studies and the co-host of this event. Kamala will introduce you to our panel and start the discussion and the audience Q&A. So Kamala is going to be joining us now. Kamala?
Thank you very much, Greg, and welcome respected panelists and guests. I'd like to just express how I feel honored to be part of this event. I'm very moved by the courage of our fellow panelists. And so let us first begin with the panelists introducing themselves with opening comments about what it was like for them to be part of this documentary. So we'll start off with Vinay Giridhar.
Hello there, I'm Vinay Giridhar. I am the director of Emergence Out of the Shadows. I'm extremely proud to be here today with you and joining in this panel and discussing the film, actually my first feature documentary film with you all. I'm looking forward to the discussion right now. Thank you.
And now we'll go to Jag Nagra.
Hi, can you see me? I think I'm on. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm really honored to be here today. And actually, I feel really great because, you know, we started filming so long ago, I think a year and a half or so. So it's great that the film is finally getting in front of people. And I think all weekend I was getting messages from folks who had been watching it through KDocs and hearing their feedback. So it was really touching to get messages sprinkled through my social media and text messages. Yeah, I'm just so honored to have been able to share my story and introduce my family and our journey to the audience.
Thank you. And now we'll go to Jaspal Sangha.
Hello, I'm Amar, Alex Sangha's mother, and it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. And because of my son, I'm sitting here with all of you people talking to each other. And it's my pleasure that I am part of Emergence Out of the Shadows.
And lastly, but not least, Alex Sangha.
So thank you, Kamala, for having us. Thank you for sponsoring this Canadian premiere of Emergence Out of the Shadows. We're so proud it's at KDocs. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Janice, for supporting us, not only for our first film, My Name Was January, but of course, Emergence. Today is not only National Coming Out Day and Thanksgiving, I believe it's also Day of the Girl internationally, which is either today or another day. And I think it's wonderful to honor and recognize women. And we tried our best with the director, Vinay Giridhar, to ensure we had the female voice heard in the film. We had Jag, we had my mother, we had Jag's mother, and we tried to lend a balance to the documentary, and I hope that came across. One thing that I noticed a lot of people tell me is in the film is the power of mothers and the power of women in the film. And that's kind of like a hidden underlying theme throughout the film, that how strong the mothers are in this documentary and the women in this documentary. And so it doesn't surprise me that Jag Nagra and my mother were both nominated for an award at the Real World Film Festival for their stories in the film. So fingers crossed for that. And of course, I should add that Vinay was nominated for Best Director as well. So we'll see what happens. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you very much. I'm just assuming that I was invited to be the moderator because of my 20 years of experience doing research on the Punjabi community, but I should let the audience know, and even the panelists, that when I was watching this documentary, I was not thinking about the Punjabi community. What was ringing in my head throughout the whole watching of the documentary was how valuable this documentary would have been for me and my coworkers when I worked as a nurse. I found that this documentary is so rich in trying to enhance understanding that it kept ringing in my head, oh, if only I could have watched this with my coworkers as a nurse. And I worked 3 years in medicine and then over 10 years in mental health. And I should point it out that that during my time working as a nurse in Montreal, I may have had 2 Punjabi patients that whole time. So it really speaks to the humanitarian effort, the universal spirit of the movie, of really trying to enhance understanding about a very deep human experience. And I just wanted to share that with you. And then I was trying to think, well, what was it that was so valuable that I felt would be so helpful for health professionals? And I came up with 4 aspects. Do you want me to share it with you? The first one was that it really sheds light on the complexity of these issues. And I think it really it provides really rich understanding when you incorporated, as you've done in the documentary, the voices of the parents. I think that has really, it really underscores the dynamic of going through such a journey, but then showing the dynamic. It's not that straightforward, and understanding that parents are coming from other places and trying to build that bridge and understanding. The other one is that communities are not monolithic, and you do this in the documentary well by showing 3 distinct journeys and how there's different parental reactions as well. And I think that's very important. And also that people do not live in silos. And you do this by bringing in the story of the boy who was being bullied for being gay when he wasn't, and then tragically he took his life. But also because I found, like, from the point of being a spectator and being an outsider of the LGBTQ community, the openness that is represented in the documentary can have a trickle effect. Well, yeah, it comes into our lives in many ways. You know, for instance, I'm a mother. One of my daughters, when she was in kindergarten, was invited to a party where there were 2 mothers. Like, it does trickle into people's lives, whether it is their personal story or not. And I think that's very valuable as well. And lastly, how important it is to have backup, whether it's parental backup, it could be a heart relative in the case of Kayden, or a counselor, but how critical it is to have that backup for people to be who they are. And this kind of falls into the whole idea of suicide prevention as well, which is a thread that runs through the documentary. So on that front, I want to first ask, how do you envision, or how do you plan to use this documentary as a tool for community outreach and community building?
So I think I will answer that question. The film will be broadcast on Out TV, which is a gay and lesbian channel across Canada. It will be made available on their streaming site 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, called Out TV Go. We have signed a distribution deal with Moving Images Distribution in Vancouver, which is a social justice distributor, which will distribute the film to high schools, colleges, and universities. We have created a beautiful discussion guide, which Vinay designed, and which was put together by Annie Ohana, who's a social justice curriculum teacher, and Sharon Shirai, who's the Share Vancouver Women's Coordinator. And it's available for free download, actually, from the Emergence website, emergencefilm.net. You can just download the discussion guide from there. It's a beautiful 35 page document, really, really useful for teachers and educators. And we are doing a lot of community-based screenings, actually, in libraries and schools and universities. We have public screenings and discussions lined up, not only with film festivals, where the film is just really exploding right now. We have over 20 official selections. We entered the Canadian Screen Awards. We've gotten into Academy Award qualifying festivals. We're batting 100%, 8 out of 8 major South Asian festivals in North America, in Boston, in Washington, D.C., in Montreal, in Seattle, in Chicago. Many cities have all taken the film. So we're batting 100% right now at major South Asian festivals. And that really just speaks to Vinay's work. And it's really amazing. So people who watch the film, they say they can't believe this is Vinay's first debut feature documentary. And that just goes to show, you know, a lot of people of color and a lot of filmmakers and people of color in our community, if they're just given a chance, they can flourish. And so we're doing, City Central Library in Surrey is going to have a number of screenings, SFU, UBC, Douglas College. So we're trying our best within our capacity to get the film out there. And we're also doing massive social media outreach. We're posting. Vinay's wife, who is his biggest supporter and my biggest supporter as well, and she's our social media manager, and she's just blasting news about the film every day, everywhere, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So, I know when my phone is ringing in the middle of the night, it's Varnita doing some post. So we are trying our best, Kamala. We are, but the biggest outreach is the film. Anyone who sees the film, the word of mouth for this film has really exponentially increased over the last month and a half since it's been released. People are hearing about the film, they're finding out about the film, they're messaging me, they're emailing me, they're finding out if they can screen it, if they can show it. I think in the last 2 weeks, I've had 6 different high schools message me who want to screen the film for their students. And I'm saying, well, let's just wait until the KDocs premiere, the Canadian premiere is finished, and then we can screen it. So there you go.
That's wonderful to hear. Now, when I was watching the documentary also, I found there was great synergy amongst the different stories, the different participants. Can you explain what was the process in recruiting the participants?
Vinay, I'll get you to answer that.
For us, like bringing the cast together was pretty straightforward because Alex was involved, and this organization, Share Vancouver, is pretty well known. And people who are volunteering or being part of that organization, they were pretty much willing to be part of it because they thought they are doing it for a purpose. And I know Jack mentioned to me, if I can save one life doing this film, I would gladly do it. I would give my story to you if you promise to save one life with this film. So I thought, and then what we needed was we needed to talk to the cast because we wanted a variety in terms of the stories. So we had Kayden, whose story you've watched now, and then we had Alex, who's an older gentleman, and then we have Jag, who's the lady of the group. So we have 3 different stories, and their parents who are different degrees of acceptance. So so it all came together beautifully, and I cannot be more happy about that. Yeah.
Does the producer have any comments to add to that?
Yeah, actually, I was careful how the story was put together. I wanted a balance. Not only, it wasn't a question of just having gay men in the film. I wanted to make sure we had women in the film, and I also wanted to make sure, I said there's no point just providing a film about coming out and for gay and lesbian kids. I said, even though that's important, really the people we have to educate in our community is the broader society and the parents. It's the parents that have the power to love or reject or disown their gay and lesbian children. This is the community we need to really get there. So my mom was willing to be in the film, and so by default, I was in it. So she's really the star. And then, Jag, I approached Jag. I just said, Jag, we really would love to have you in the film. And, Jag was just emerging as kind of like well, now she's a major activist, but back then she was just emerging as an activist. And she's really made huge waves in the community since then. And I think her story as it goes around the world is just going to open up eyes. And her parents, oh my God. So brave. Her parents are so brave. The mother, the father, the brother, her partner, her children, they're all in the film. And I'm just indebted. I just, so grateful to Jag and her family for, because it's not just a question of being in a documentary and being in a movie. What she did is a huge service to our community and to people at large who are suffering, people who are suffering in silence. And there's not many resources coming up. There really is not a lot of resources for Punjabi Sikh families or South Asian families or queer people and their parents. You know, I mean, there's a lot of parents of gay and lesbian kids. There is no other place for them to get information or help or support or resources. There's nowhere where they can turn to. And where are they supposed to go? So, you know, Jag and her family did such a huge, what they call in the Punjabi Sikh community is seva. Seva means selfless service. I think they did a huge seva to our community. And I think for generations and generations, this film will be used in high schools, colleges, universities, in the community. It will be shown for National Coming Out Day. It will be used as a foundational type of work that people are describing it as. For our community. And I'm just, you know, maybe Jag can make a few comments on how she felt with the process, but I'm just so grateful for her, and her whole entire family is in the film, and it really made the film from my perspective.
Was it difficult to recruit your parents, Jag, to get involved in this? Because I mean, that's a big step for that generation to be so open and emotional too.
Yeah, this discussion's making me quite emotional right now, actually.
Oh.
But I think if Alex and Vinay had asked me, you know, like 3-4 years ago, prior to that point, if we would have been in it, I don't know if we would have all said yes the way we did. But I mean, by that time, we had a young daughter. My wife and I had a daughter. Life was like quite different than it was growing up, and even, you know, a year or two before we had her. So I think we were all at the point where we were, I guess, at a different level of acceptance. The shame had sort of gone away. And for me, like, when we had our daughter and I saw my parents proudly telling their relatives, proudly calling people and telling them that they became, you know, Nana and Nani, that really helped me accept myself in a different way, I think, right? Like, sort of always my worry growing up was, I don't want to be out publicly because I don't care if people say something to me, but I don't want my parents to have a hard time. When I saw them sort of having our back and supporting us, happily supporting us, I think, you know, since then it was, our relationship just got stronger and everything, right? So yeah, when I asked my parents, and I can't remember exactly, it's been a while, but I'm pretty sure like pretty quickly they said like, yeah, sure, we'll do it. And I know the week leading up to it, my dad was just like, oh my, trying to get out of it, and convinced him a lot. And I was like, Dad, there's not a lot of Punjabi Sikh dads who would openly support their queer children, right? By you just being in the film is going to speak volumes. It's going to change a lot of lives. It's going to help start conversations. So yeah, I think I'm glad they agreed. And well, after the filming, my dad came home and just like lay on the sofa, put a blanket over him, and was just like groaning, like, "Oh my, you're just so exhausted from telling the story," and you know, nerves sort of just came out at that point. But yeah, I'm like so proud of my parents for sharing their story.
Yeah, their contribution, I think, was very powerful too. And I think it made the documentary so much more rich to enhance that understanding, which is really seems like the objective of the documentary, the making of the documentary.
Yeah, and I think for you know, for queer people, a lot of our parents think our kids are never going to get married, our kids can't have kids, right? So a lot of their hopes and dreams are crushed finding out their kids are queer. But I really hope with our story they can see that, you know, we're just like regular people, right? Like we get up, mornings are crazy around our house just as they are in any straight couple's house, right? Like our kids wake up and we're struggling to make breakfast. Like it's just life as it is anywhere else. So I really hope that that gives people hope. And it's not, you know, it's not the end of their lineage. People are so worried that their lineage isn't going to get carried on, but yeah, it can, and yeah, it can be really beautiful.
Thank you very much. And what about Jaspal? Was it difficult for you to take that step?
Yes, it was. I have no clue how the other people will react. But then the love of my child, the acceptance of whatever God given me, the wrapped gift, and everybody have children like that. Everybody raise their kids like that, and I was not exceptionally doing something what mother shouldn't do. And so I thought, well, yes, I will. I told the kids, I say, yes, I will go with you guys because this way other mothers can hear the story and they can think about themselves. Why can't we do if she can do? So, and also the icing on the cake that when Jag's mom talked to me and she said, actually, looking at you, that gives me the courage. Why couldn't I be standing with my daughter the way you standing with your son?
Oh,
So that makes me feel like I have no really words to describe how comfortable I feel inside as two mothers getting together. And I was more thrilled to see Jag's father when he came in. So I thought now I'm more stronger, like brother and sister. I have kids, he have kids, and we both are supporting the same way, and that is very good. Otherwise I was a little bit shaky that the public might think that I'm a single mom and I'm doing it. If somebody can stop me, my husband or anybody around me, and then I may not be able to, but I want to show yes you can when you think you can. And then coming Jag's father in the picture and also the brother, and that makes me more stronger. So give and take both ways. We find the courage with each other. So
did you find the process of participating in the documentary helped you grow stronger in relation to the journey that your son went through?
yes, number one, the fear out.
Oh, good.
The fear out. And number two, that I'm not alone
Mm-hmm.
because of the parents are with me. And number three, that it's not only because I let go free because I have a son. Jag is a daughter, and everything she done there, and have a partner, have children. So one day long ago, I tell Jag, I said, well, if I can be a mother of Alex, you can, your mom can be a mother of you. So our kids, your kids, boy and a girl, they can be straight family people in the future, because we never expect anything happen to us the way it did, and it could be the other way around. So there are lots of doors opening now to think about all that stuff. It's not only little stories in there. It's people's lives, and the culture, and the and encouragement, and lots of acceptance. And I have a feeling that lots of people will take benefit out of it,
Mm.
especially when I'm gone, I'm dead. People will still watch the movie later. That's my line. That's my line of the family from Amar. I consider Amar is the father of the group. And now when Jag have children, they made me like a grandma for the group. So I'm so proud of that.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah.
In terms of the making of the documentary, editing can be a hard process where you have very good shots, but somehow it doesn't fit in the documentary. I've experienced this with writing books. Like, I've interviewed so many people, I have wonderful quotes, but they don't always make the cut. Was there anything that was not put in the documentary that was still valuable, it just didn't fit in, so you had to keep it out? And if so, what was that? What would those scenes or topics be about?
Yeah, editing the film was a huge challenge because we are talking to three different the cast members and their parents. All of them have their own version of the story, and to bring it all together, I thought it was a very challenging feat to do. It was very like they did say a lot of things that I wish I could put in the film. We had time constraints, like Alex would be like, keep it 80 minutes. It cannot be more than 80 minutes. So you need to cut it out, cut that out, cut this out. So yeah, but I thought we were able to bring out the essence of what they said to get a more in a concentrated form so that everybody gets their message out through this film. And I think I did the best I could with it. Yeah.
But it is difficult, right?
It is very difficult.
You can have wonderful shots, but for some reason, whether it's a time constraint or just it doesn't fit in with the flow of the documentary.
Yeah.
Was there anything important to any of the participants that they felt was not included that they would like to share with the audience?
I feel like Vinay did such a great job of editing down like the core of what we talked about. I don't feel like he left out anything important from my story, but I just loved how, you know, the back and forth, the way he portrayed it. Like when my brother and I found out about each other being gay, the way he edited it was, you know, Harv's talking and then I'm talking about the same thing. You hear both perspectives at the same time. Same with Alex and his mom. Like it was really interesting to watch both stories unfolding or both perspectives unfolding at the same time. I think it was just a really cool way to see what they both were thinking in that period of their lives.
And how about when putting this documentary together, even the planning part of it, were you mindful of the or concerned about the topic becoming, you know, running the risk of stereotyping, whether it be with respect to the Punjabi Sikh community or the LGBTQ community? Because when I did research 20 years ago on the Sikh community in the Lower Mainland, there were a handful of people from different generations who did voice that, oh, we need to speak more about homosexuality. That was one of the topics that they said the community needed to discuss more openly. But in practically the same breath, they'll say, oh, but they would express fear that, you know, somehow the media would misrepresent the community or stereotype the community. Were any of those ideas in the back of your mind as you were planning the making of the documentary and the process of making the documentary?
So Kamala, I'll just comment on this. So I'm a social worker by profession, and I'm into documentary films, social justice documentary films. And in the social work, they have a really important principle called self-determination. You want to empower the people you work with self-determination, which means you give the interview subject the ability to share their truth, their authenticity, their reality. You allow them to have their voice. You allow them to share their lived experience. So we never claimed to make any broad generalizations about the Punjabi Sikh community. We basically had a case study of Punjabi Sikh families and gay and lesbian people and their parents in Metro Vancouver, and where we were hoping some of the themes would ripple out and impact other communities and it would make sense for other communities. So we strategically did it that way as a documentary film producer, and Vinay, you know, followed through with that. And I think that was the best way to do it, because no one can argue with someone's truth. No one can argue or debate someone's truth. You know, to them, that is their truth. That is what is real for them, and that is what is authentic for them. And one thing a lot of Punjabi Sikh people who are even Orthodox and very conservative and traditional who watched the documentary said to me, and we had extensive feedback from 60, 70 different people providing extensive feedback of all backgrounds. And even the Punjabi Sikh people who were, I think it was you actually who told me this after you watched the film, Kamala. I think it was actually you who said, what you really appreciated about the documentary was that it did not blame, you know, the Sikh culture, or the Sikh faith, or the Sikh religion, or the Punjabi Sikh people. You presented the stories, you presented the lived experience, and you didn't have any agenda. People can walk away and think what they want to think. They can come to their own conclusions. not only did we empower the interview subjects to say what they want, we, in effect, by using the process that we did, empower the people at the audience to think what they want to think. So I think it was a very smart way of doing a film, really, because we kind of shielded ourselves from a lot of potential harassment from people who said we were, stereotyping this or that.
Well, it's been an ongoing problem both for the LGBTQ community and the Punjabi Sikh community, where there's the feeling that there can be a misrepresentation or stereotyping of the community in one way or another. But you're very right that because you gave authentic, truthful stories, that, well, how can you refute that, And they're different. And that made it balanced. You're giving totally different journeys of three different people. And that in a way buffers from any kind of risk of stereotyping, rather than if it was just showing one journey, right? Jag, I see you're nodding your head. Do you have any comments you'd like to add to what Alex said?
Yeah, I think it was for our, like, my parents' generation. I feel like a lot of times it's like, oh, like upbringing people, like Indian people aren't gay. That's a Western problem, right? And I we did such a great job of showing, like, Jaspal auntie, she's praying, right? She's not a bad person. She doesn't, she's not into, it's just showing a Sikh woman practicing. With my parents, like, I think it was filmed from a place of love. The stories were told from a place of love. And I think that'll help start conversations with people. It'll help break down that wall that this, Indian people aren't queer, because that's not true. And something I often think about at a Christmas party with Share Vancouver a couple of years back, there was an older gentleman that came, and I was talking to him, and he was surprised at how young the crowd was. He was like, oh, I was expecting people more my age. And I looked around and they were all like 20 somethings, 30 somethings there. And I realized it's because the older generation never had the ability to come out. It's not that they don't exist. Being gay isn't a new problem or issue. It's not a new thing. They just didn't have the means to come out before. So I really hope that this story helps shed that light, that we are there. We're just, like I said before, we're just regular people. I just happen to be married to a woman. There's nothing else I do that would be any different from anybody else.
Have you, like, this is not just directed to Jag, but to anyone, would anyone like to share any reactions or responses that they got regarding the documentary that perhaps caught you by surprise or that stood out in any way?
I can share one, actually. I think maybe about a month ago, I got a message on my Instagram from a complete stranger saying that they had watched the trailer for the documentary, and they were very moved by that and touched by it. And they asked if I could, if we could chat over FaceTime and sort of help them. Like, they wanted to hear my story about how did my parents come to accept me, because their parents were struggling. So yeah, like the very next day I was like, let's do a FaceTime. And we talked for maybe an hour. It felt like we were just friends catching up, even though we'd never met each other before. But since then, like I talked to Alex and I was like, hey, can we get the link to this documentary to this person? Maybe it can help. And yeah, like that was so touching that the trailer, like the 2-minute trailer, touched someone enough to reach out to me. They looked me up to see, how to contact me. And that was really powerful. And I feel like before the film was even released, the job that I was looking to do was already done, right? Like I touched somebody, and yeah, we keep in touch. We're like internet friends now. Hopefully we can meet one day in real life. But that was really powerful. And yeah, they've been able to have conversations with their parents. And yeah, the reason I wanted them to see it was because I said, this film shows 3 parents in here who are accepting.
Mm-hmm.
It shows Kayden's story, right? Like, his parents weren't accepting. He got completely cut out from the whole family. Like, and I said to this person, I was like, I don't think your parents want you to end up like Kayden. I don't think that they want that for your journey. I can tell they love you. So I think, you know, seeing our stories hopefully gave them some hope.
Thank you. Anyone else has any responses or reactions that they would like to share with the audience that perhaps caught them by surprise? Or
Yeah, we had about 5 film reviews done on the film now, 2 in India, 2 in Canada, 1 in the United States, and a lot of people are saying the film is very emotionally gripping. It's very touching. It's heart-wrenching. Kayden's story is just devastating for a lot of people. But what they like about the narrative arc of the story is that the story really is out of the shadows. We're starting in a really dark place, but we have redemption. We have redemption at the end. We have redemption for Kayden in many ways. He finds a new family. We have redemption for Jag, and no one would have known at the 50-minute mark. All 3 stories are going in their own direction, and all of a sudden, within 25 minutes, Vinay connects them all, and everyone's happy dancing together. Right? So we have redemption not only with my story with my mom, but with Kayden's story and with Jag's story. And I really think we've been getting really, really strong feedback and praise on Jag's entire family and Jag's story, and especially that scene with her brother and, you know, their parents both finding out at that moment what happened is captured in the film. And then my mother, everyone says my mother is so, I mean, the funny thing is we actually made this film for Kayden. He was the impetus for the whole film, but it looks like the 2 stars coming out of it are Jag and my mom. But, you know, I feel everyone is a hero. Everyone is courage in the film. Everyone did a wonderful job. I mean, how can you possibly evaluate someone's story? That is their story, right? And I think they put their heart and soul into the project. And I'm hoping one day that it's one small step towards creating safe spaces and saving lives, not only here in the Western world, but, you know, in South Asia and India and everywhere where, you know, queer people are marginalized, oppressed, and in some cases victims of very brutal, tragic situations.
We'll jump ahead. I have a list of questions, but since you brought up the issue of suicide, when you invited me, Alex, to this event, the hook for me, without having watched the documentary, was your comment that this was to save lives. And that's why I jumped on board, even without having seen the documentary. And the documentary exceeded expectations. But suicide is an important thread that does run through the documentary. And I thought I'd like to give you the opportunity to comment on the importance of suicide prevention with regards to the LGBTQ community in general, but then also if there's any specific issues that emerge with regards to the South Asian Punjabi Sikh community that you have noted. This obviously, this question would be addressed to Alex, but perhaps even other people can join in afterwards. But here you're wearing your cap as a counselor.
Yeah, a counselor and a social worker. Actually, to be honest, I have worked with a lot of queer kids and queer people in my counseling practice and my social work career, and suicide is unfortunately a problem, not just for members of visible minorities in the Punjabi Sikh community. If you're queer in this world, you know, you're at higher risk of anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, bullying, homophobia, transphobia, to get gay bashed, you know, to be disowned by your families. And I think sort of a little bit of a difference in general is if you come from a visible minority as well as a sexual minority, as if you're gay and Punjabi Sikh or lesbian and Punjabi Sikh, you're double discriminated against. You're double at risk. And then there's other intersectional oppression if you come from, a low income household, or you have some disabilities or something. There's so many different types of oppression that can put you more at risk of harm. You could be targeted. And we couldn't ignore the element of suicidal ideation in the film. Vinay touched it very mildly, actually. He touched it in the film. It comes up in the film. I think he touched a good job we didn't want to have a copycat syndrome where youth watching this film would watch this and give them ideas, but we had to present it in a way that showed hope, showed resilience, showed survival, and showed that you can be happy as a gay lesbian person or a gay woman or a gay man. But I think we would be doing a disservice to our community if we did not present the element that we are at risk. And part of the job of a documentary like this, that's telling the truth of our lived experience, is to share that and illustrate it in a way that doesn't do harm, but yet educates our community. And I think Vinay did that quite well.
Yeah, because it's subtle, but it runs through in a subtle way,
Yeah.
I mean, one of the comments you made in the documentary that stuck with me was that your love for your mom, you just knew that it would upset your mom so much that you couldn't take your life. That left a big mark on me in the documentary.
Another thing, which was really important to have someone from my generation in the film, and I don't like to say I'm the older man in the film, but someone from my generation is, when I was coming out, Kamala, there was no internet, there was no cell phone, there was no gay straight alliances, there was no Grindr. I thought there was something wrong with me. I didn't know anyone who was gay. I didn't know what was happening to me. And there was no support. There was no places for me to go for help. And I was suicidal. I mean, where are people like myself from that generation? Of course they're going to be suicidal. It's a major problem. At least now. I'm not saying things are easier they have their own challenges. But at least now you can just go on the computer and look something up, and you can connect with a counselor or a teacher or a gay straight alliance, or you can get a crisis line, or a lot of people are a lot more educated now on coming out gender and sexuality issues than they ever were when I went to school. Even now they have SOGI curriculum in high schools, sexual orientation and gender identity. And the fact that there is even a movie like this that has been produced in 2021 for people to watch at Kwantlen Polytechnic University is showing that we are moving forward in the right direction.
What about suicide prevention with the South Asian community? Like what do you see perhaps is more like, are there certain ethnic specific issues for suicide prevention that you have noted for the South Asian community?
So I think there's a lot of pressure on young gay South Asian people to get married, to have children. I think Jag talks about that very well in the documentary, where she was just so afraid of being rejected and so afraid, like she didn't want to hurt her family and she didn't want to displease her family, and how is she going to come out and and live up to these expectations. And I had the same expectations. And I think there's also, I also talk about in the film, internalized homophobia. And this is what makes a lot of people suicidal, is because they don't like themselves for being queer. They don't like themselves for being gay or lesbian. So why would you want to live if you don't like the way God has created you, or you don't like the way you have been created? So this is a horrible feeling, a horrible darkness, empty, void feeling inside. Could you imagine going through life and you don't even like who you are? So this is what queer people have to deal with, Kamala. And there's a lot of people from minority communities who still deal with this, because there is so much stigma, taboo, oppression, discrimination, alienation against queer kids in various cultural communities. And it's very sad, it's very difficult, and this is why we're trying our best through this documentary and other resources in Share Vancouver, and we do provide free crisis counseling with no wait list with master's level counselors. We have a program for queer kids in crisis and distress in Share Vancouver. I'm very proud to say. We have peer support groups which are free, which meet every month, virtually right now. And we have, I do lots of intake information and referral as a social worker. We are, since we became a registered charity, the number of messages coming in have tripled. So I'm getting anywhere from 30 to 50 messages every couple of weeks now. So it's really, really increasing, and we're getting messages not only from British Columbia, but across Canada and sometimes from around the world. We're a very unique arts and cultural and social service organization. There's not many registered charities for queer South Asians like ours. But I want to say one more thing, Kamala. We do not just support queer South Asians. We support any child, anyone coming to us for help. We do not turn anyone away. We believe in Sikh values where you don't discriminate against anyone. That's my value as a social worker and coming from a Sikh family. Everyone's a human being. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, with respect and equality. And we do what we can within our capacity to support everyone of all backgrounds. And even though our film focuses on Punjabi Sikh families in the film, the director himself is actually Hindu from Kerala in South India. So he was looking at it from a very objective lens. He was, looking through the documentary from a very objective lens and learning as he was going.
Have you had feedback from people who belong or identify as queer that are not Punjabi Sikh, but felt that they could really relate to the documentary? It rang so true to their experiences as well.
Yes. I have. In fact, we had feedback from 60, 70, I think almost 80 people at different stages of the documentary. And people were saying, you know what, there's universal themes in this film. There's universal themes of bullying, racism, homophobia, even gender identity, and some transphobia type issues where we're talking about how Jag's talking about how she felt when she was growing up and how I was wearing, a sari and confused and wanting to be like a girl. And there's issues of love. There's issues, I talk about in the documentary where every child wants to have the love and acceptance and support of their parents. No matter what their parents are like, no child wants to be rejected. And so we talk about these universal themes that are human themes and that connect the humanity. But that's a good question for me. That's also a good question for Vinay. Did you see any universal themes in the film, Vinay?
Of course, as he mentioned, I'm from South India. I'm from Kerala, and I'm Hindu. And looking from outside into a culture that I'm not accustomed to, it was a mind it was an eye-opening experience for me to learn about these people who comes from a certain faith and how their faith helps them deal with the situation they're in. And then even if it's not the faith, it's like the coming together and finding their own support groups and finding somewhere they can belong. I think it's a universal message for everybody. It doesn't matter. It doesn't even apply only to the queer people. To anybody really, like finding your own people is a universal message that I think Jag has mentioned in the film. So yeah, there were so many things that I learned myself, the humanity and the kindness and the openness that you need to show to your fellow human being. And just to see how the mother accepts their child no matter what, it's just really heartening to see. Yeah. Filming it was very emotional for me as well. Just watching them tell their stories was very emotional for me. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you think about it, if you take a distance, like take a step back, what you're looking at is the human experience of how do you navigate when something is happening to you or your loved ones that is not on your radar. You're juggling with trying to navigate, something very, and this would be very true for the parents, that their facing something that was completely off their radar in life, right? And I mean, you did such a great job putting it together, because bringing in those voices of the parents really shed light to the complexity of what Kayden, Jag, and Alex had to go through. But I mean, it is very heart-wrenching, but at the same time, like you say, it's that love between the child and the parent that, in a way, there's two sides to a coin. It was an obstacle, but then the flip side was it became a support as well. I don't know if that makes sense, but.
Of course. One thing that Jag mentioned that I remember now that I wish I could have added in the film, like related to the question you're asking now, is she asked me in that interview, like, you love your child in a certain way before you knew that the child is gay or something. That just the day before you loved him a certain way, I loved her a certain way. But the moment you hear that your child is queer, like how does that love change all of a sudden? Like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to her. That's what she told me. And it really doesn't make sense, because you love your child as they are, like it's unconditional love, right? But then you find out your child is queer, like something happens, like what changed suddenly, right? So that is a very valid question that that I was posed with. Yeah. And then a message that I saw, actually we were being interviewed by somebody, and the interviewer said how he felt bad that he himself had bullied people or called people names or their as kids in high school, and then now after watching this film he feels bad about what he did, which is a very because it's having real impact, I think.
And it's amazing how different people take away different things, where they are at in their lives, and then they click with certain aspects. But that is a kind of testament to how rich the documentary is, that it's multidimensional, and so people, can really relate to certain aspects of the documentary, and to have impacts that way is wonderful. Not just about, helping people understand, but be hopeful about the journey of coming out. But even what you just mentioned here, that it gave insight to someone that their bullying was wrong, On the subject of religion, Alex, you mentioned that you're lucky in the documentary that there's no mention of homosexuality in Sikh scripture. Can you elaborate on this point?
My mom has read the Guru Granth Sahib at least 60, 70 times from beginning to end, so she will answer that question.
It's to me personally, knowing Jag, Kayden, and Amar, or before that, or after that, no difference for my spirituality, change nothing at all. I'm still the same way I'm reading, same way I'm praying, same well-wisher to the humanity, and respect the universal truth that love is love, and parents are parents, and other people, they cannot really wipe out of the face of the universe. They still gonna be discriminative and picking on people or bullying or anything. But we trying our best to tell our stories, and people are picking up different things. I'm amazed that I never know this little documentary will have that much impact on different types of people, different way of thinking and everything. The religion actually, I am not very traditional way practicing, but I am very fond of reading Guru Nanak's philosophy, and I try to understand within my best ability to try to implement in the daily living. And it wasn't easy for me to do everything. Sometimes I cry that this is the spirit don't need any food or shelter or all those problems, and I'm a human being and I need this, my kids need that, I'm unable to provide. Sometimes I argue with me myself, sitting in my own room and reading all that. Even though I find some Shabad one to the other looks like, because I'm not a very knowledgeable person, I was struggling to know everything. Some Shabad look like they contradict each other. When I was going into the very deep understanding, one way they say that you have to do everything by yourself. The other side, they say that God knows without even saying a word, and God will do for everything for you. So those kind of things make me struggles a lot. But I become day by day better human being, better way of loving my children, better way of accepting other people who are different than my children, and better way of my background. I was a high school teacher in language, that those days I was feeling different, now I'm feeling different, now I'm doing things different way. So in a way that helps me a great deal. But I stopped going to the Gurdwara to read the Rawl for 2 hour shift I used to do. I done about 10 years in a row. Only for one thing, I'm not upset or anything. With my understanding, two things happen. One was when Amar come home and he said, "Mom, the president of the Gurdwara told me there is no such thing existing in this world. The Sikh people are queer people." I said, "Really?" And then he said, "Yeah. And do you know anything from the Sri Guru Granth Sahib and anything that can support?" I said, "Well, give me a time and I will go all the way back again to see everything. Maybe I'm missing something." The other thing, in 2008, when I was diagnosed for breast cancer, then my all hair fall off, and my head was just like my palm, and then I feel uncomfortable when I go to the Gurdwara. People look at me sometime like, what she's doing, right? They kind of don't even expect, they don't even accept my hair fall with that disease, and forget about that they're going to accept right away my child is gay. So those two big things and push me away. But my respect, my love, my interest not change at all. I'm more stronger. I'm reading more. I'm trying to understand more, and I'm trying to implement in my daily living more.
And there is actually no actual direct reference to homosexuality in the Guru Granth Sahib from beginning to end. There is not a single reference. So in a way, I think it's a blessing, because no one can use it against gay, lesbian, or queer Sikhs. They can't say Guru Nanak or any of the gurus or the the Guru Granth Sahib says anything bad against us. In fact, Sikhism is all about helping people who are marginalized, weak, vulnerable, who are victims of oppression. It is our duty as a Sikh to fight for those people who are victims of social injustice. And, I think queer people in this world are still suffering. So all our I think it's important for minority groups, especially Sikhs who have been victims of discrimination themselves all over the world, to support other groups like queer people, queer Sikhs, queer South Asians, because we're also minorities, and the minorities need to stick together. Otherwise, as soon as we start to divide and conquer, it's going to be a problem for everyone. We need to support each other. It's all about human rights. I mean, I ask people all the time, I said in another interview, why would God create us as queer children if he wanted us to suffer? I'm a very spiritual person. A lot of people don't believe in spirituality, but I believe God didn't create gay, lesbian kids if he wanted them to suffer. We are also his children. God wants to love everyone. We are all his creation. And so I think love is love. And what it says on the poster of the film, being gay is just another way of loving. It's just love, And what I really love about Sikhism philosophy, when two people get together to get married, It's
Mhm.
not a male body and a male physical body and a female physical body coming together to get married. They're actually two souls or two spirits coming together, and that soul or spirit is genderless.
Mhm.
So it really does not matter if it's two female souls or two male souls or this or that or two male people coming together. It doesn't matter because God, I mean, I believe God has brought these people together, these two souls, these soul spirits come together, and it doesn't matter. It's a genderless soul or spirit, right? Which I think is such an advanced, really simple, wonderful way of looking at the world. And the other thing is, what I really love about, I mean, I'm not really religious, but I'm very spiritual, like I said. I believe, really, at the end of the day, our physical body just turns to ash and mixes with the earth. It's really our spirit and our soul that lives forever. I mean, do you want to live half your life pretending to be something that you're not? Do you
Mm.
want to live half your life trying to live up your expectations to what is written in some religious text and what society is saying you can and cannot do? I mean, let people live their life and be happy. Let people enjoy the 70, 80, 90 years they have. Let them marry who they want to marry. Let them fall in love with who they want to fall in love. Why does it bother you? How does it hurt anyone else? Love never hurt anyone. If
Mhm.
everyone treated each other with love, the whole world would be a better place.
Mhm. Do parents continue to expect their children to have heterosexual marriages when they identify as homosexual? Because when I was doing research 20 years ago, it did come up that there were kind of coping strategy, I guess, where a gay man and a gay, like a lesbian woman would get married. They'd lead their separate homosexual lives, but they have this pretense of a heterosexual relationship. Was that an anomaly, or is that something that was practiced like 20 years ago within the South Asian community?
You know, Jag talks about this in the movie, so I'll get Jag to talk about this, and then I'll get my mom to answer from a parent's perspective. So,
Okay,
Jag,
perfect.
why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, like I said in the interview with me, that was a very real conversation I had with my friend because I couldn't see any other alternative.
Mhm.
In our culture and in our community, marriage is, number one priority for parents.
Mhm.
Right? Like, and the frustrating thing is we're not allowed to be friends with boys. We're not allowed to talk to boys on the phone. And then we get to a certain point, 23, 24, everyone starts talking about your marriage and bringing marriage proposals, right? Like it's a very confusing thing. So, yeah, I don't know what the stats are if people have done that, but
Mhm.
that was certainly a conversation I was having, trying to navigate this.
Mhm.
Too certainly don't,
Mhm.
but I just feel like the pressures from society, even if my parents never outwardly said that, or my aunts or whatever never outwardly said that, I did feel the pressure. Everyone around me at a certain point was getting arranged marriages, love marriages,
Mhm.
and for me to not have, I just didn't see like, oh, how could I bring a woman home?
Mhm. Mhm.
Therefore, I must get married to a gay man, right? Like there was no other option for me in my mind.
Mhm.
So yeah, yeah.
Ironically, and I don't know if I'm over interpreting, but in the documentary, I got a sense with your parents that when you married your partner and had children, ironically, in a way, it helped them come around, even though it was a same-sex marriage, which is, I would say, is the biggest departure from, traditional culture in the Punjabi community, to have a same-sex marriage. And it ironically is what helped, at least that's how I saw it when I was watching the documentary, that in a way helped your parents embrace your sexual orientation.
Yeah, I think it made it stronger.
Mhm.
I remember when my wife and I had been discussing, like, okay, we're ready to start a family. We were at my parents' house one morning and having breakfast together. And nervously, we asked them, like, we want to have kids. How do you feel about this? Which normally, straight couples don't have to feel like they have to ask permission. We felt. And my mom sort of got mad at me and said, like, are you going to live under a rock forever? You're going to hide from everybody forever? She said, I don't care if my cousins or relatives find out. Go live your life. And that was really sort of the validation I needed to snap me out of that thinking, because I mean, for so long, and I've had a therapist for like over 10 years now, maybe 15 years. And early on in my journey with her, I would talk to her like, oh, I have these like daydreams or whatever in my head that I'll be in future shopping with my wife and kids, and I'm going to run into a relative, and what do I say? Or if I have kids one day, and this is when I was single, like I didn't even have any prospects near, right? But one day if I have kids and I go to India because I want them to experience life in Punjab and everything, am I going to have to train my kids not to call me mom in front of people, right? Like pretend I'm not your mom. Like I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. So having the approval from my parents just changed everything. And it was like, okay. And now like my mom's relatives call her and they'll ask how I'm doing, how my wife's doing, how the kids are doing, like anyone would for any other kid, right? Like how's my kids are named Jaya and Akash. People want updates on them. My aunt and uncle in Punjab send me WhatsApp photos of their updates, and I'll send them photos of my kids. They came to visit when Jaya was 3 months old, and it's just all been love, right? And people had told me that kids change things. Somebody can't hate a baby.
That was my mother's experience. When my mother married my father, mixed marriages was considered like out of reach. It was very, I mean, my mother said when they traveled from America to Europe to India, they got strange looks except in one country in Europe. But then as soon as she had her first child, the Indian family came around. So there's a lot of truth to that. Perhaps now we can go to Jaspal to find out, do parents, I mean, not all queer people want to get married though, eh? Or to settle down and have a family. How does Jaspal view the experience of parents, reconciling the fact that perhaps their children don't want to get married and have children?
It was very emotional and hurtful when I sit alone and think about that, and I talk to my mother. And one of the time, Amar came to me and he gave me all the options that number one, you can adopt a child. Number two, you can have a partner like that. And then they can raise, and will be no problem. Like me and my mom, as a single parent, we raised 3 boys, and it will be just like looking like that. But to me, I was very hurt in the marriage life, and being single and financially deprived of many things I could have done for the kids, and I couldn't do it. For things like that, I was afraid. And I never say yes to my son for that. I said I had enough with me, myself, for my children to raise. I have no stamina, no strength, no resources to raise another child like that. I could not do it. But in a way, I was having lack of knowledge of the way things are. The way Jag explained everything with my own eyes, I see the journey of meeting the partner and having the kids, and I am enjoying it now. Sometimes I do feel guilty that those days gone and I could not say yes. But I'm really not regretting anything, because the circumstances force me to be like that. And the major fear was that Amar was diagnosed bipolar. And that was another fear in the head that no, we shouldn't. I talked to the doctor, I talked to my counselor. Amar don't know anything about it. And I discussed with my mother. And mom say that I help you 100% for doing things, but beside me, nobody can help you. And then I don't think it will fit in our family. But I'm so happy for Jag and their parents, the way they're enjoying now. And I am feeling like they are my grandkids, and they call
Mhm.
Mama Ji. The kids call Mama Ji to Amar, and it's like a music to my ear when Jaya call Mama Ji here, Mama Ji here, and I'm having all the pleasure now like this. But those days gone, past is gone. I learned my lessons, but I am sure stronger than before. If anybody need my suggestion or advice, I will give the honest one. If such and such thing you can do, go for it.
Mhm. And
So,
and
sorry.
also, I just want to say, like, in my life, I've kind of discovered I kind of create my own family, my own chosen family. Even, in the film, you kind of discover that, Kayden comes into our family in a way. I'm like a mentor and an older mentor to him. I'm a friend to him. And even now, there's another person in the film who plays an extra in the film, who was in foster care, who's now 21 years old, who needed a place to live. And now he lives with us. He's a wonderful kid. He's part indigenous. But he's queer. And he started calling me Papa Cher, and he started calling my mom Grandma J. So, so we have these, I kind of feel in a way that we have, and today we're celebrating Thanksgiving dinner here at my home. And the funny thing is, all the people that were supposed to love my family and love my mom and to support me and accept me, my blood family, really weren't there for me. But everyone who is, with the exception of my mom and some close people in my family, but all the people in my life that I've made in the queer community and friends and allies, and just the people who are showing up to my Thanksgiving are people who care about me and my friends and people in my life. They're all my chosen family.
Mhm.
So this is what happens to gay and lesbian people. Sometimes they have to live non-traditional lives.
Mhm.
And, we show a little bit of these differences in the film. You have Jag, which is like, wow, look, she just has this, perfect life. And then you have, her brother in the film, and then you have my story, and you have Kayden's story, and you have the parents having their expectations, you can see how difficult it was for the parents in the film, especially Jag's father. Um, it was really hard for them. I think even during the filming process, it was very difficult for him, and a lot of his feelings weren't fully resolved around Jag's situation. That's the conclusion I came to with some of the when I was watching the film. But at the end of the day, I think everyone came to sort of an understanding that there are children, and we're going to support them, and that it's just learning to love each other. And it doesn't matter if you have your own biological family or your chosen family. There's different ways of developing relationships in this world, and one is not any better or worse than the other.
Do you think there's space in the Punjabi Sikh community to open up to queers, be open to same-sex marriages? Do you see that potential?
I'll tell you one thing. Like my mom mentioned, in 2008, the leader of the Sikh temple said there's no such thing as gay Sikhs. I was attacked from all over the world on MSN at the time, with people bashing me, saying I'm a disgrace, I'm not a Jat, I'm embarrassing the community, and all this horrible hate mail I got. In 2018 or 19, a board member from that same Sikh temple messaged me and said, Alex, we may not agree on everything, but can we work together to, combat HIV, STDs in the community, depression, suicidal ideation? I went to the Sikh temple on a Sunday when it was packed, and I talked about living with depression and bipolar disorder and living with mental illness, and I tried to do what I can to support our community, and I got a really good response. And everyone knew at that time that I was out and openly gay. Everyone knew.
Mhm.
And also what happened a few years later after that, the outreach coordinator for the Khalsa Diwan Society in Vancouver, the Ross Street Sikh Temple, they invited us to march in the Vancouver Vaisakhi parade. So there was a backlash on the board when the media picked up on this story and they wanted to kind of reverse the invitation, but it was too late.
Mhm.
We took 17, 18, 20 of us. We marched in the Vancouver Vaisakhi parade, and I think we went for 3 or 4 years after that. This was before COVID took off, and so times are changing. You know, times are changing. I think time is on our side.
Mhm.
Time is on. There was a time where same-sex marriage was not acceptable to the mainstream community at all. There
Mhm.
was a time when conservatives would never support same-sex marriage in Canada.
Mhm.
So in the mainstream community, same-sex marriage now is the law in every
Mhm.
province and territory in this country.
Mhm.
And I'm fully confident that Sikhism, which I consider to be one of the most progressive religions that espouse equality and egalitarianism and helping those who are vulnerable. This is what I feel Sikhism is about, but I'm not an expert, but that's what I feel. I feel if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be the Punjabi Sikh community.
Well, when I watched the documentary, and I was reflecting on how it was when I was doing field research 20, 21 years ago. When I was doing the research at that time, it seemed very timely for women's issues, addressing girls, being able to, for instance, go out of town to do their professional training, having choice in marriage, wanting to have a career path rather than being quickly married off. There were a lot of issues pertaining to girls at the time that I was doing my field research. And when I was watching the documentary, it struck me that I think it's really timely now. Like, a lot of things have changed for girls in the Punjabi Sikh community over the last 2 decades. Since I've been on the West Coast. And I really do feel that your timing of doing this documentary is a really good one. And I personally feel that I could see there being a lot of ripple effect with what you've been doing with the documentary, how it's going to go out into the community. And I would even recommend networking with the Gurdwaras. I have students, they come talk with me. There is this issue, and it's like undercurrent in the community that I think really needs to come out and discussed in a more open fashion. I hope the community is open to that.
I actually know someone who's well connected with the Gurdwaras and Sikh temples in the Lower Mainland. His name is Akar Tatle. Not many people know. He ran for Surrey Council. And I think he did very well. He was a firefighter and he does a lot of stuff in the community. He works closely with the Sikh temples, and he is the South Asian Outreach Liaison. That's the fancy title we gave him for this film. And he just did an interview with Red FM, I think, this morning. And I will be talking to him about what you just suggested. So I think it's a good idea, because I really think, could you imagine if we started doing some advocacy with the Sikh temples in Vancouver and they agreed to allow, queer Sikhs to get married in the temple? That would be a wonderful progress for our community. And it would really set a precedent for Sikh communities around the world, including in Punjab.
Yeah. And it doesn't conflict with Gurbani, which is what your mother was talking about earlier.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
And so you got me thinking again with my crazy bipolar brain.
Does anyone have
anything? One thing, Kamala, someone said to me, my counselor said to me, never tell a bipolar they can't do something. Right? It's like, if someone's going to make it happen, it'll be one of them.
You have a lot of nice comments in the chat, people praising the documentary, how inspiring it's been. Here, congratulations to everyone involved in its production. I hope it will continue to have an immense impact, and I'm looking forward to finding further ways for KPU to help this happen. if anyone's interested in finding out more about KPU's efforts to support 2 LGBTQ plus students and employees, check out. So there's a link. There was someone from Vernon, I believe, who messaged saying that they love JAG, and just a second. We love JAG. Thank you for everything and providing representation for queer South Asian women. Also, thank you to everyone in this documentary. Thank you to the parents. This documentary is everything our community needs. I really do think the timing is perfect. Like, I wasn't saying that just, to, conclude this session. That was my gut reaction when I was watching the documentary, that a lot of girl issues had to be worked out in the early 2000s, and there has been a lot of progress. And now I think it's time for the LGBTQ community within Punjabi Sikh community to have more of a space to discuss what's really important and what they're facing, and to hopefully have some sort of transformative change within the community, Does anyone have any concluding remarks? Please look at the public chat. I just read through a few of them, but there's a lot of, people thanking for your sharing, thanking you for sharing your stories. Very nice. Any concluding remarks?
Yeah, I can share a few things. I think, like you're saying, it's such a timely point to be releasing this. I think, education is the key, because I can't speak for all parents, but for my parents, they said they never knew they didn't know it was possible even for 2 women to fall in love. Never talked about, it was never part of their upbringing. So how could they have educated us if they didn't even know, right? A lot of it, I feel like, it doesn't always come from a place of hatred. Sometimes it's just a place of ignorance, not knowing something's possible.
Or lack of awareness. Yeah.
Lack of awareness. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes people ask me how to get their parents to accept them. And it's hard because everyone has different upbringings, everyone has different beliefs. There's no one set rule you can apply. Say this to your parents, accept you, right? And what I always say is, it took me 20 something years to accept myself and understand what it meant to be queer. You can't come out to your family and expect them to be supportive right away. Sometimes not even, 6 months later, they might still not get it. So I would say, you have to be patient, keep having these conversations. Because it took me 2 decades. You can't expect someone who's older, who has a certain set of beliefs, to get it right away. And the other thing, I really want to thank Vinay for telling our stories and for making us humans through the storytelling, because queerness, gayness is always looked on negatively a lot of times in mainstream South Asian culture. And by him telling our individual stories, he made us human. And I think that's so powerful. People watching it will be able to, they connected with a gay person, right? That might, that's confusing for them. I don't hate this gay person, right? So I think that's really, really powerful what he's done with our stories.
No, he's done a wonderful job. I was very taken by it. It really, I was very impressed, and I felt like, wow, no one could have done it better. And I think it should serve as a springboard for further discussions and impact on the community and society at large. I'm sure it will impact people who are not part of the Punjabi Sikh community as well.
So Vinay, why don't you and Mom do some final comments? And there's just one last thing I want to say. So Vinay, go ahead.
I would like to thank everybody involved. I'm very emotional reading the comments right now. I really don't know what to say, because if it's not for Alex, I'll probably won't get this opportunity to say the story. And it's a true honor. Really. Thank you.
Okay, Mom. Thank you, Vinay. Mom, go ahead.
I thought we're done.
No.
No, I just want to say thank you for everybody, and I am hoping if one person can change, one mother can change watching me, one daughter can change watching Jag, one son can change watching Kayden and Amar, and all different way of life. If one person is changing something better, and it's worth making that documentary. And my warm hug to everybody. And I accept all as it is, and I wish everybody do the same. Thank you.
So I just want to thank my wonderful, beautiful mom. She's so wonderful. She's the best mother in the world. I want to thank Jag's brother, Jag's father, Jag's mother, her kids, her wife. Really, you know, I wish they knew the impact they will have for generations to come, because the feedback I've been getting that I'm not even sharing with everyone has just really been immeasurable. Thank you to Vinay. Vinay really did justice to our stories. He put 2 hours of, I mean, really, to be honest, you know, you can't pay someone enough for 2 years to volunteer and put their sweat and their tears and their effort for 2 solid years on top of working a full-time job to make a movie like this, and to give up every single weekend to either do shooting or editing or writing or developing the outline for 2 years of solid human effort to make this documentary become true to life, and also to make it and to deliver a product that you can feel proud of, and that the interview subjects can feel proud of, and the cast and crew can feel proud of. And last, I am so proud that this film, which was shot in Surrey, in Metro Vancouver, Vinay lives in Surrey, I grew up in Newton, Jag is in Metro Vancouver, this is an entire BC project. And KDocs, which is from Surrey, in the heart of the Punjabi Sikh community, the South Asian community in Surrey, you know, KDocs now for the second time has featured our film. They're supporting emerging filmmakers, but not just emerging filmmakers like me and Vinay. They are supporting BIPOC and queer filmmakers. We have limited opportunities in this world, really. It's been challenging, and I know, because I've tried and I've struggled to have our voices heard in many different platforms. And I really want to thank Janice Morris and Greg Chan of KDocs. I want to thank Kamala Nayar from Asian Studies at KPU for supporting this, for the PDEC, President's Diversity and Equity Committee, the Kwalin Student Union, I believe, and the Pride Committee there. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm so grateful, and I'm even getting teary-eyed and emotional now. And you know, it's been a long journey, and it's been a 2-year-long journey, and it's just starting to hit us now about some of the work that we have to do. And the journey is, we're finding closure. We're getting a sense of peace and a sense of closure. So I'm thankful for that. I'm grateful for everything all the hard work that went into it. So happy Thanksgiving, happy National Coming Out Day. And today, I believe, or coming up soon, is Day of the Girl. So be kind to all the girls in your life, all the wonderful women in your life, and all the mothers in your life. They are, to me, I feel the backbone of every family and society, really. And we need to respect our women as much as we can. Thank you.
So Greg, do you want to conclude?
Can there be a sequel? I think we need a sequel. Well, I mean, KDocs were just so honored to have screened this film, and what a beautiful, I mean, the film is so beautiful, and we had such a beautiful panel discussion. So thank you, all of our panelists. I want to thank, of course, Alex and Vinay and Jaspal and Jag for sharing your heartfelt stories. And thanks, of course, to Kamala. Oh, Kamala's still here. Kamala for being our moderator. And of course, to our official sponsor, the President's Diversity and Equity Committee. And finally, I'd like to thank all of our audience members. So please, your comments, thank you so much for the comments. I've preserved all of these so that our panelists will be able to read through them later on. But thank you, audience, for joining us to celebrate this documentary and all that it represents. KDocs, so this is the first, we're very proud of it. It's our very first entry in our Stop Anti-Asian Hate series. And we're returning on November 19th for a second screening. It's a documentary called The Six, and it's a documentary about the unknown story of the 6 Chinese survivors of the Titanic. So that is on our website. So thank you very much, everyone. And this recording, by the way, we're going to post it on our YouTube channel for our KDocs talk. So it'll be part of the educational package around Emergence. So thank you very much, everyone.